Welcome to Cultivate, a Veritas Academy podcast, where we explore truth, beauty, and goodness through meaningful conversation. We invite you to join us in discussions meant to edify your mind, encourage your heart, and equip your family to live abundantly in Christ.
Welcome back to Cultivate, everyone. I'm Ty Fischer, your host, and I'm going to be talking to someone today who is both an experienced person here at Veritas Academy and new in a sense. Anna Martin has taught Spanish here at Veritas for a number of years.
15.
15. She started when she was 7 years old. So she's been teaching Spanish here for 15 years, leading our mission trip to Guatemala. But this year, she is back in a new role as our director of service. One of the things that is a marker that we have in our mission statement here at Veritas is we want to cultivate loving, serving, thinking students. So over time, I've got good data that I can prove that we have thinking students here at Veritas. And just walking the hallways every day, it's easy to see that we have loving students here at Veritas. But sometimes I feel like we've been deficient in giving them opportunities and really building structures to enable those opportunities to serve. So when we were talking about our strategic plan, we were starting a new strategic plan this year. One of the things that was at the center of the Christ-centered culture that we wanted to see was an emphasis on service. And I'm excited because we started investing in that, and God had already brought us the person who is going to be the leader of that effort here at Veritas, our very own Anna Martin. So my hope in this podcast is that you would get to know a little bit about Anna and see the things that God has laid on her heart and that she's helped us to see so that we could really fulfill that mission of cultivating loving, serving, thinking students. So, Anna, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Well, when we talk about service, how did God really instill in you that heart for service?
Well, when I think back on the way that love of service was cultivated in my life, I have to give a lot of credit to my parents. Uh-huh. They just consistently, even today, serve in the community using their gifts and talents. And when I think to my husband's life as well, he would say that when the church doors were open, his family was there.
Yeah.
So my parents served more in the community, and his parents continue to serve in the church. And so that really was instrumental in cultivating that love of service in my life.
Yeah, so I was emailing back and forth with your mom yesterday concerning some things that nonprofits are doing here in Lancaster County, and I can see how that's the apple has not fallen far from the tree, as they say. But you actually were called, you and your husband were called to run an orphanage in Guatemala. Tell me about that. How did that happen?
So growing up, my mom was she really was instrumental in founding a program that through the adoption of my sisters, found out that there was an orphanage that nobody really visited outside of Moscow, Russia. And so through that, she started an orphan hosting program with families in Lancaster County. And so my family was always, there was a lot of back and forth of the kids over the summer, and oftentimes the kids would stay in our house. So that was kind of an introduction to this world.
And God used that experience to maybe open your heart to say, let's take another step in.
Exactly. So then as young adults, Jared and I visited Guatemala for the first time, and our hearts were just really broken for what we saw when we were there serving in some children's homes. And so we wanted to get involved at a different level. And so we took our oldest two to serve with us. So Brian and Naya both lived in Guatemala and lived on the compound with us. It was a very, very difficult year. And there were many things that we learned, including what excellent service looks like and the excellent care of children that needs to be taking place.
Yeah. So you had adopted Brian already, right? So, and Brian just graduated from Veritas last year, and he He's at the University of Alabama right now, which is like a dream for him, right?
It is.
Roll Tide.
You got it.
So Brian and Naya are there with you. So draw us a line between that and then you being a teacher here and saying, let's take these students back. Let's take them back to Guatemala, to the Village of Hope.
Yes. So we did not serve at Village of Hope. We served at another children's home. And through that experience, we just really saw that there was a need for family-based intervention for kids. Mm-hmm. And so during the time that we were working through kids adoption in Ethiopia, I was actually introduced to this family as they had a daughter also adopted from Ethiopia, the Block family at Village of Hope.
Okay.
And their goal is to create faith, family, and future for the kids that the government brings to them. But that is done through a Guatemalan house parents.
Okay.
And so that was something that we could really, having seen a different model with nannies, that was something that we could just really get on board with. And I knew that the kids at Veritas are just the leaders of tomorrow. Right. And so we wanted to be able to incorporate some sort of service component where they were able to be exposed to this idea of brokenness in the world. What is the church doing globally? And it seemed like a very good fit for our students.
When you brought that idea to me and just explained how a Christian home and Christian parents were so integral to this, and especially Christian fathers, because oftentimes in orphanages you have a lot of mothers, but the fathers are often not involved. But taking these orphans and making them not orphans by putting them in a Christian family with a father and a mother was just, I've been on one of the trips. Sadly, since COVID hit, we've not been able to, but hopefully
this year.
Hopefully?
We sure hope.
Okay. Now, some of you know Anna, and I'm just going to be honest about her. She's one of the nicest people that I know. It's like you can probably feel some of that on the podcast, but she really is nice, and she's kind, and she's considerate of other people. So I know that when she says something that bothers me, it really hurts. So our mission at Veritas is to cultivate loving, serving, thinking students. And I think God has used Anna sometimes to ask me questions like, do you really think it really should be thinking students or thinking, loving, thinking students? Are our students really serving in the way that they should be? So God's given spiritual gifts in all of these areas. So why can't Christians just say, like a Presbyterian like me, say, I'm a thinker, let the other people serve?
Well, I think that it goes back to...
Well, why do you say things that bother me like that? You knew you just slipped the knife in.
Well, I think it goes back to the Word of God, Mark 12, thinking through the commandment that Jesus gave us in the Gospels of loving the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our mind, and with all our strength. And I think you're right, Presbyterians are amazing at loving the Lord with all of their mind, and that is great. So we want to cultivate, though, those other pieces of that, those verses that Jesus gave us. And, of course, he goes on combining the Old Testament with the new law that he gives us to love our neighbor as ourself. And these are uncomfortable, but they are things that he's asking us to do because it's a way that we're going to be able to present the gospel to the world and be the light that be the city on the hill.
Yeah, see how she did that? She brought in the scriptures against me as well. I mean, it's very uncomfortable. I'm Presbyterian. I'm married into an Anabaptist family, and this causes consternation for everybody. Because the Presbyterians, when there's a disaster, they write an essay about the disaster and, how God is still in it. And then, when they're done, they're like, okay, I fixed it. Well, but the Anabaptists all get on buses and go help.
That's right. And so we can all learn things from each other in this arena. And I think that when I think about service, I think that it's like any other of the elements in this verse. Love the Lord with all your heart, soul, mind, and your strength. And we have to exercise those muscles. So we don't, as Presbyterians, say that it's okay to continue drinking the milk of the scriptures, we say that we need to get to the meat. And you can't get to the meat in service until you have exercised that muscle and you have worked it out and you understand you've past the discomfort of what it might look like to walk up to somebody and ask how you can help, or to be able to be wise to say, this is a good way to serve, and this is actually, even though my intentions may be good, this is actually a bad way to serve. And so we need to help our children learn what that looks like.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is to get involved.
Yeah. So as director of service, you do more than just the mission trip, but help people understand, what's this mission trip like? What are we doing? How does it work there at Village of Hope when we go down?
Sure. So this is a trip that is not intended to go be the saviors in any way, shape, or form. We just go to partner with the Blocks and the Lopez family who run Village of Hope. They already have their parents, their house parents, raising these children. They've got professional psychologists, they've got therapists, they have nurses. They're fully staffed to help care for these kids. But being kids from hard places, sometimes those house parents need a break. And so what we offer is just the time period between when school ends at 3:00 and before dinner at 5:00. We're just given the opportunity to come and give those house parents respite by playing with the kids and creating activities that keep them safe, having fun, exerting their energy that they have after being in the classroom during the day. And it's just a wonderful time to be able to serve in that way. And it is the best way in terms of orphan care that we can serve, because we don't want to go and form bonds of attachment with these kids. We want them to be doing that with their house parents. And so it's just a great model.
Yeah. I mean, it was really impressive to me the first time that we went down, how much they protect the kids, and they protect them from us in a sense, because, and I remember you telling me, think about how it would be if every week a new group of friends came and you really like them and then they left. It's like heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak. So they really do. That's just a very impressive way that they care for the kids down there. But we don't just work between 3 and 5 there.
That's right. So the rest of the time we spend serving in not only at Village of Hope by doing projects that they might have us do, simple things like painting or simple construction or yard work. We hoed up a whole field and made a garden for them one year, tore down walls inside of an old building that was converted later into a school. But they also give us the opportunity to serve in their local community, to bring food bundles to families with the idea that they would like to preserve those families and help them before the children are taken from them because they can't provide for them. So they're doing family preservation in the community. Normally they would take their children at Village of Hope to go deliver those food bundles, but during the school year they allow the teams to do that. And that's something that's very special. And
it was a great blessing. And you know, I think impactful on our students.
Oh,
so
for sure.
I wanted to just give you some time to unpack, what impact have you seen on the lives of high school students because of this mission trip?
You know, I can say from my perspective that one of the things that I've seen has been career choices that the students have made as they have gone off to college. But I actually reached out to a number of students just to learn their perspective as young adults. What would they say now looking back on the trip? What was impactful to them, or how do they view the trip now that they're adults? And I was just so blown away and blessed by all of the responses that I got. And they were really numerous. I've narrowed it down to 3, but I can tell you that all of them said basically the same thing. And so I'd like to, if it's okay with you, I'd like to read a couple of them.
That'd be great.
Okay. One said, going to Village of Hope impacted my overall life goals. The experience helped my plans shift from self-centered to other-centered. No matter what I end up doing for my career, it has to involve helping other people as the primary goal.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Another alumni said, the trip to Village of Hope completely changed my perspective on service. Serving others is much bigger than just me serving you. It's God's love working through me to serve others and spread the gospel. It's God meeting us where we are and letting him do his will through us. It taught me that even the simplest acts can have big impacts, and that at the end of the day, we're all the same. We're all children of God, and we are all in desperate need of feeling God's love. Service is as much about the act as it is about obeying and trusting God and doing his will. I'll forever remember the Village of Hope trip as the beginning of a revival in my heart to love and serve others.
Wow.
And then there's one more. Guatemala was an incredibly spiritually impactful trip for me. It was my first interaction with the global church and with Christianity outside of the American bubble. Also, through the guidance of Mrs. Martin in Village of Hope, I learned a lot about how to responsibly serve. We read Orphan Justice, which presented us with a nuanced picture of the impact of service and some of the downfalls that the church can good-heartedly fall into. This experience has impacted how I seek to serve in my life, even now.
That's incredible.
I thought they were beautiful.
Yeah.
So I can say that from a teacher's perspective, I've seen students choose careers like nursing or the medical field from having visited the clinic that we go
Yes.
to. I've seen students that have chosen careers in global development because they were impacted by the poverty that they saw. So it's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. So I remember, I think it was in my oldest daughter's class, in Maddie's class, I think 40% of the seniors that year went into medicine, and a lot of them went into it because of the impact of this trip. Some headed toward being doctors, others wanting to go into nursing, but just really impactful.
That's right.
But you're, as director of service, you're not just about a mission trip.
That's right.
Because that would just be thinking students on a mission trip.
Correct.
So, and I want to, I guess this is a time of confession of sin here on the Cultivate podcast, because I have traditionally been against service requirements. And the real reason for that was I want people to serve, not just to check off a box. I really want it to be something that comes out of their heart. So, and then COVID hit. Right. And
That's right.
You came back around to me saying those bothersome things that you say. And you said, Ty, we have to have a service requirement, especially after COVID. And you convinced me. Okay. So help the listeners understand what happened to serving during the pandemic.
Sure. Well, I think that when you traditionally look at serving, you think that it is that muscle that needs to be exercised. And we typically kind of start them in middle school or high school, where we say, you're old enough now to help. You're old enough to be a contributor. And so we start them on that path. It might be in the church nursery, or it might be as a greeter at church. It might be that we say, we're going to go serve in the retirement community, or I'm going to take you to the hospital. That's something that my dad, being a physician, that my mom did with me. She took me to the hospital, and I served as a little assistant, bringing gifts and flowers to people's bedsides. But during the pandemic, that all was completely cut off.
Yeah.
And not only were kids told, not only were opportunities not available to them, but they were really told, don't
Right.
breathe on anybody, don't shake their hand. And
be distant.
Correct. Be 6 feet away from people. And so I see that as a challenge that I think that we need to overcome now. We need to start helping them to exercise that muscle. But on top of that, they're also faced with this just bombardment of this cultural, what has become culturally normal, that they are intrinsically narcissistic from social media and just the messages that the world is giving them. I was recently in conversation with another Veritas mom, and she mentioned to me the theme of a school that they had lived near where they lived before, and it was, I am third. So the idea goes back to that Mark 12 verse, but that it's God, others, and then ourselves. And that is not a message that they are receiving from the culture.
No, it is not.
In fact, it would be completely reversed.
Yeah. So you convinced me that if we're going to restart serving the way that we should, people needed some accountability, a little, as Bilbo got it, a little nudge out the door.
Sure.
So we're starting that. We're going to start that requirement next year. Talk about some of the stuff that you're preparing this year and kind of the vision for the training in service that we want to have with our students as they go through the younger grades and the middle grades and then those older grades.
Yeah, great. I'm really excited about this. We've kind of broken the service piece into two branches. The first would be the grammar school. We'd like to give families the opportunity during the grammar school years to serve together. And so we've created some opportunities in partnerships with some local organizations. And we've set up some times that families will be able to do that Friday evenings and then some weekend times on Saturdays.
Okay.
The first organization is Blessings of Hope, which is a food redistribution center.
Every time I'm there, it just makes me smile.
Mm-hmm.
How it's so, their organization just bespeaks so much that is good about Lancaster County.
Yes. And if I'm correct, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that it's an Amish community, Amish based.
Right.
Yes.
Well, if they're not Amish, they certainly are dressing like Amish.
Yes. And what a wonderful opportunity to not only utilize food that would otherwise go bad, but then also at the end, you have the blessing of being able to shop at their store yourself. So you can fill your cart and grocery shop with whatever is in their store at the end of your time of service, which is an added bonus, in my opinion.
Well, and they are so, I remember seeing some of the statistics over there. They are so efficient in what they do. It's just heartwarming to see Christians pour themselves out like that. Okay.
Yes.
Blessings of Hope.
Blessings of Hope. The second one would be Bethany Refugee Resettlement Program. And through that, that's just simple kind of grunt work. We're going to go help them to go through their closets where they have donation items, get things ready to be given to families to be taken for when they arrive and for when the apartments are being set up for them or the houses are being set up for them. And I think that we can all agree that in today's age, this is just such necessary work.
Well, that's one of the things some of the people listening might not be aware of Lancaster's importance in the refugee world. Lancaster, Pennsylvania, is the per capita refugee capital of America. And I think a lot of that is, I think the Mennonites have been on the front lines of really finding persecuted folk and Christians and bringing them here and resettling them, which has been an amazing blessing to our school.
Yes.
Like we have Congolese and Burmese. Those are two of the largest refugee groups. We have Congolese and Burmese students here at Veritas, and it's just glorious to look out and see that God has become our diversity coordinator here at Veritas Academy.
Right. That's right. And what an amazing opportunity to just make life easier for people who are in absolute tumult and to allow them the opportunity to walk into a house that is prepared for them after what they've been through. I just think that is one of the kindest ways that we can initially welcome them. So that's something that we'll be a part of as well. And then the last one is a ministry that's close to my heart. It's called Green Meadow Farm, and they offer equine therapy lessons to families of children from hard places. So they have two opportunities for us. One is going to be just a fall cleanup day where we're picking up sticks and nuts, and that will be perfect for young grammar school families. Yeah. And then the second opportunity that they have is for us to come and help them prepare the morning of their Christmas open barn. So we get to decorate a farm for Christmas.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And provide the cookies and the cider and just get ready for those that give to the ministry to come and see the farm at Christmas time.
Wow, that sounds great.
Yeah, I think it will be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Talk about the secondary school, though, and the local and regional and global focus that we have.
So I would like to build this out in layers. So this year we're really focusing on how can we serve here at school?
Right.
And then next year, building out how can we serve in our local community? And then how can we serve regionally? And then how can we serve globally? So we're rolling that out this year. And I'm excited that the students will be able to hear from some of the people here at school who really do need them to step up and ask some of the good questions that go along with service. And then hopefully we'll just continue to build that each year. And so by the time the students are done, they'll have received training from 7th through 12th grade in just how to serve with excellence.
And will have hopefully been involved in at least 60 hours of
That's right.
service at that point.
And I do want to point out too that there are 4 things that I'm really honing in on. Four things that I'd like them to graduate from Veritas and just know at the core of their being. And I'd like to share those things.
Please do.
Okay. The first thing that I want them to understand is that service is really what makes the world go round. We couldn't exist in this society without people serving one another.
Absolutely.
The second thing that I want them to learn to ask every day is, how can I help? Being able to ask that question and then being able to see a need and then ask the question opens you up to the blessings of being able to help someone else. Third, we serve to bring glory to God. It's easy to want to pat ourselves on the back. And I think that that's what you were alluding to when you were saying that you want the service to come from the heart.
Yep.
But we practice that, right? And then
Sure.
we confess when we did the thing to kind of receive that pat on the back. But
Yeah.
we're looking to help instill in them service that brings glory to God. And then the last thing is just that as a church, I would love for them to understand that we are really God's plan A for the world.
Right.
And there is no plan B. And I get that from our great friend at the International Justice Mission, Gary Haugen. He has a wonderful sermon that he preaches this message. But I just want them to understand that as the Christian church of the world, that really, once again, being the light and sharing the hope of Christ is really fundamentally the most important thing. So we can say that there are great, for example, there are aftercare programs that when children are freed from sex trafficking, that they go through an aftercare program, some of them in Guatemala. But when that's devoid of the healing, the ultimate healing of Jesus Christ, really, truly, we haven't met the full goal of restoration for that child. So when we have Christian aftercare facilities that can offer the true healing of Jesus Christ, then we have offered them everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one final question. There are parents listening. How, as a parent, how would you encourage parents to work on instilling that love of service in their own children?
Yeah, looking back and thinking about my parents, again, I would say being the example is the best way that you can instill that. It's just like so many other things. I can tell my children to read their Bible every day, or I could tell my children that they need to go to church on a Sunday morning, that walking through those doors is an incredibly important discipline. But if I'm not doing it, I'm really not certain what their motivation would be in starting that on their own. So being the example, I think, would be the first thing. But it's never too late, right? So even if this isn't something that's part of your family culture, we're offering an opportunity now, particularly for grammar school families, to all become involved together.
Yeah.
And secondly, even if it's a secondary student, just being willing to make the time and space in the family schedule to make that happen and to prioritize it for your children.
Yeah, having enough margin to be able to do
That's
that
right.
is a real trick.
That's right.
Yeah, you know, here at a classical Christian school, we spend a lot of time doing stuff that isn't done as much in our culture. Reading very thick books on old things and studying the scriptures and doing math that the head of school cannot understand. Okay, and it's amazing for me. Anna is part of a faculty that is just made up of some incredible people who are just pouring themselves into our students. And that's kind of what an education is, pouring yourself in. But in the scriptures, we see that pouring in is not an end in and of itself. The purpose is not for you to just be full. The purpose is for you to be able to pour that out on others. Christ didn't come to glorify himself. He came to serve.
That's right.
So,
and I think we can see that with the parable of the talents and many other times that we're instructed that to him who much has been given, much will be expected.
Right. That's a good point.
Yes. And we are cultivating leaders, and we need wonderful leaders who will serve in the same way that Jesus did, which is putting themselves last and putting others first.
Right. And, as we look back in history, so much of the success that has happened in America has been because of the roots that went deep into the founding time of our country. And really, it's been amazing to look down through history and see the missionaries that have gone out from America and the service organizations that have been founded in America. I think even back to like the Marshall Plan, where America decided we're going to just fund rebuilding Europe, and even the countries that were bad, we're going to fund, and how that has poured out more and more and more. So
I love the studies that show that where Christianity has gone, things like hospitals thrive, libraries thrive, universities thrive. And there's something to be said for that, because that's the work of the Lord, and that's what he's doing. He's bringing light into the dark places of the world, and we want to be part of that.
Yeah, very well said. Well, Anna, thank you. Thank you for being such a wonderful teacher and kind person most of the time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for asking me to be here today.
And needling us when we need to. So thank you. Thank you for all of that.
My pleasure.
You've been listening to Cultivate, the podcast of Veritas Academy, a preschool through 12th grade classical Christian school in Leola, Pennsylvania. If you would like to learn more about Veritas, please visit veritasacademy.com to discover the truth, beauty, and goodness of classical Christian education.